Good evening and welcome to Close Up. This past week, the island of Yanuda, just off Bengal, witnessed what in time will represent a growing shift towards greater appreciation of our surrounding environment. As part of an ongoing series of community engagement under the long-running Fiji Locally Marine Managed Area initiative, Close Up visited Yanuda to find out for ourselves how marine conservation is changing lives one village at a time. This past week, Jeffrey Smith accompanied the Pacific Blue Foundation, one of the organizations supporting the initiative, to find out for himself.
It's Wednesday, 5:30 in the morning. My rendezvous with the founder of the Pacific Blue Foundation is at Pacific Harbor's iconic Pearl Resort. As the morning sun forced its way through the early morning dew, our transport to Yanuda Island was quickly organized.
I think the weather's coming out nice. Clouds are clearing away and it should be good.
These leaders at FLEMA and WCS and other NGOs are really establishing the protocols and methodology to work with communities for locally managed marine areas. And when we say locally managed, then this is based on what the community needs, not what some outside person or organization has a perception or misperception of what should be happening. In the process here, it'll be very exciting as the community explores their own needs and their own aspirations under the guidance of FLEMA, especially who are the lead organizers and facilitators. And the outcome should be a series of objectives and goals and perhaps a roadmap of how they envision achieving that.
Pacific Blue Foundation's interest in instilling a wider appreciation of conservation is shared by many here.
To help the communities build sustainable natural resource management and also develop alternative income opportunities compared to traditional gathering of the natural resources and selling it into the globalized market, where right now the resources, the natural resources, the coral reef resources, the land resources, the trees and other things are being degraded through the process of harvesting and selling, in many cases, to a globalized market, and that doesn't always benefit the local community so well.
If it's tough for private organizations like Pacific Blue Foundation and others to access outer-lying island communities like Yanuda, then spare a thought for those communities themselves.
So in addition to the resource issues, an island has other problems with infrastructure. The education opportunities there are inferior to, let's say, in Suva or Nandi. The government has a difficult time committing to secondary education for these smaller communities on islands. They're off the grid. They don't have the electrical grid. They don't have the water grid. They don't have the road grid. They don't have as easy an opportunity to get to medical care and so forth. So these islands, even those 7 miles away, have a very difficult time in many other ways besides just the natural resources. And the integration of these at the socioeconomic scale for these communities, in other words, solutions have to be envisioned and implemented at the socioeconomic scale of the communities, and that's the process that we're trying to explore with the community and with FLEMA and others.
En route to Yanuda, we get a glimpse of what not too long ago was the preferred mode of transport, as well as livelihoods.
The Fijian people were masters at sailing the ocean. They're ocean people, and every village, even in the mountains, in the bush, down on the islands, on the coast, and the remote islands, all have the story of the boat, because Fijian people were traditionally boat people populating the islands. And so the traditional craft of building a boat like the Wanganaviti or the Macau, as you see here, the knowledge was passed from the ancestors to the grandparents to the grandchildren and so forth over thousands of years. And so this is really the fundamental cultural icon in many ways of Fiji. For example, the Fijian people culture and language was linked together through all the different islands through the sailing boats that they could build.
These days, only Fulanga in the Southern Lao group is keeping this age-old tradition alive.
This boat here was built in Fulanga. We're working with the people there to bring this back to the people of Fiji, and we sponsor the Vetawanga every year in Suva, and we did it last August with the Hibiscus Festival. We'll be doing it again this year, later in the year. We don't know the exact dates yet, but we'll keep the Fijian people posted.
There is now a fresh push to make traditional relics such as these more than just a historical reference. To engage at the community level this way, simple protocols must first be taken care of. At Yanuda's 100-odd-year-old village hall, once the island's first church, village elders along with young and old have gathered. This may look basic, but over the years it has become an effective approach to ensuring that the message of conservation filters right down to those that matters most, villagers themselves. With their vision clearly set out, putting ink into practice remains the ultimate challenge.
They say that this boat does a better job at catching fish for them than the panga with the petroleum. And so it's possible that for them, this conserves money, but importantly, that's less resources they must take from the reef and then sell into the global market so they can buy the petroleum and the motor and the fiberglass and so forth. So by using this traditional boat and building it locally in Fiji, they save a lot of money, and therefore they save a lot of resources on the reef that they don't have to take. So I think that this traditional style of boat in a community that still uses it is important both for the cultural continuity, because you don't like to lose the knowledge and the traditional knowledge of how to build the boat. That's such an important icon for Fiji. It's on the 50-cent coin, for example, and the phone booths, Fiji Telecom phone booths. There's the sail. But from an economic point of view and resource economic point of view, if this boat costs 10 times less at the end of 5 years than the panga with petroleum and the outboard motor, and that's about the cost, about 10 times less, and can catch about the same amount of fish, then from a resource economic point of view, this kind of traditional system can save a huge amount of resources off the reefs that doesn't have to be sold to the global market.
So while this may seem like a distant foreign object to even the younger generation here, the combined efforts of our fisheries department, enforcement authorities, as well as other private sector partners such as the USP, Pacific Blue Foundation and other conservation groups remain steadfast in their determination to turn the tide back against some of the environmental as well as behavioral threats posed against the way of life, such as island communities like Yanuda.